You'd kindly stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everybody.
Good.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Good morning, everyone. As you can see, our chair is not here today. That puts me in the chair seat. Today is Tuesday, and it is our regular board meeting day. And I will look to Tabitha to find out if we have any current additions to our agenda. I will ask if the board has any current additions and/or deletions to the agenda. If there are none, I would look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Our next item of business is employee recognition, and I will turn to our administrator, Matt, to take off with that one.
Thank you, Mr. Vice, and I'm going to ask Brad and Tony to please come forward, along with Deb Tearaway and Greg Sherhart, if you would please come on up, please. And Leon, would you like to join them? It's up to you. Okay, all right. Great. I'm going to pass the microphone off to the department heads. Gentlemen, Mr. Vice, today we're recognizing two of our distinguished Morrison County employees that will be retiring here in the near future. Combined over 42 years of dedicated service to the residents of Morrison County. And with that, I'll first give this to our Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Matt. So today we're recognizing Greg. Greg has over 20 years at the Morrison County Highway Department or Public Works Department. He served as one of our maintenance technicians and has really served our county well. You know, Bobby just commented, I don't think Greg's ever missed a snowplow call in that 20 plus year span, which is remarkable. You know, the guys that do this work are often don't get a lot of thanks, but you know, the whole county benefits from what they do. So we're really privileged to have had Greg on our staff, and we're really sad to see him go. He really pushed the crew along, as Bobby mentioned, and you know, we really appreciate that. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Very well earned.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd just like to thank everybody for this opportunity I had here to work here. This is the best job I ever had, and I've been working for 50 years. So I got 21 years and 7 months here, so these are very good years. So thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have Deb Turway here. She must have started about the same time as Greg did, because she's about 21 and a half years, 21 years, 7 months or so, and she's worked in the disability services area most of her time. She ended up now as a Min-Choice assessor, and so she's done a great job. I went back and looked at some of the things people have said about her: efficient, attention to detail, great boundaries, good connections with clients. So we are going to miss her greatly. She's a great team member, but now she will have more time to collect rocks and start her new passion with agate. So hopefully she'll enjoy her retirement. So Deb, thank you so much for all your time. And I promised I wouldn't hand her the mic, so.
Wonderful. Gentlemen, thank you for that, and Greg and Deb, thank you. And I have to say that. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you have done, contributing to the residents of Morrison County. Morrison County, it's not because we're located between St. Cloud and Brainerd. That's not what makes us special. It's not because Lindbergh grew up here. It's not because of a lot of other things. What makes Morrison County special are our employees. Without the employees and the staff that we have, this would be a hollowed out building of walls of brick and mortar, and we wouldn't be the county that we are. We are known and regarded by many as an example to follow, and it's because of folks like you. So I applaud you for that. I sure hope that you're able to enjoy your retirements. You've earned them, you deserve them, and I hope now that you can go and enjoy them. Please don't be a stranger, and once you're in the family, you're always in the family, and we are here for you. And now, not as an employee, but as a customer and a resident, we hope now to provide that same service. So thank you for your dedicated service. And on behalf of the board, and I'll turn it over to them in a minute, we have a small token of appreciation. And it simply says, thank you for your dedicated service and for making Morrison County a place that our residents are proud to call home. You will be missed. And maybe there's a spot that this can go to remind you of those many years of service. It's signed by all 5 commissioners with your years of service on a placard down below. So thank you so much. Mr. Vice.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matt. Board, comments?
I'll just say something.
Fire
Craig.
away.
We just, all of us here are appreciative of your dedicated service and the hard work that you've done, but more importantly, we want you to have a happy and a healthy retirement.
And if I may,
Please.
Mr. Chair, you think you were busy when you worked here, you're gonna be busier now, so that's what happens, you know, so, but yet, good luck to you and have a long retirement.
Mike?
I just want to say thank you too. It's, people don't realize all the things that everybody does sometimes, but it's what makes Morrison County work and we appreciate it. Thank you.
And what the administrator said along with the board, I can't thank you all enough. 21 years each, whatever, 22 pushing for each one of you. That's a long time, no matter what we're doing. So truly, honestly, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you. Greg? Thank you, sir. Can we get a photo with you and Deb up at the
Should
board,
stand
please?
up and put them in
Come on
front.
up. Deb, thank you so much. Thank you. Come on up. We're going to put you in front of the commissioners.
Come on in.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you. Good job. Always making it. I'm watching them pretty close. Good, you gotta watch them. Squeezing the score here. There you go. That's one. No, one more.
If I could actually, Deb, is it? Sorry. If I could actually have you scoot just a little bit. There we go. Perfect.
Perfect.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Leon, did you, hold on. All right, we got the boss here.
That's the boss.
I
Boss,
know.
that's right.
Wonderful. One more round of applause, please. Thank you so much. Thanks, Deb.
Now they'll call you for relief driver, you'll be busier.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. Good luck, okay?
Usually what happens,
Yeah,
they get bored after about a week.
yeah. That's something for me to do.
All right, our next item of business is going to be our approval of our consent agenda. Gentlemen, I trust everyone's gone over our consent agenda. Do you have any questions, concerns?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion on the consent agenda. Hearing none, this is going to be a roll call vote. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Lemire?
Aye.
Wincher?
Aye.
And myself, Commissioner Jelinski, is an aye. That motion passes. Moving right along, Fish Trap Lake. Please come on up. And if you'd be so kind as to introduce yourselves and why you're here, what you're doing here.
For sure. Our board consists, of course, of me, the chairman, Tom Anderson, we've met here before, Chris Seaman, our treasurer, Ron Naipan, John Schobloom, and Lucy Thomas is our secretary. And like any other year, ours is usually pretty uneventful compared to some of the bigger lakes around us. This year we had quite a bit more curly leaf again, like the year before, so we started to look at the budget and see that with, anywhere from 40 acres of curly leaf every year, where the other times we had 2 or, 4 acres show up. So we must have done a good job those other years, but this stuff cycles. Probably anything that's a little bit different over the last few years, and I think we've talked about this before, is the native weeds. Ice came off late, which people were looking at the water, it was clear, looking great, and the waters always look clear. It's just the celery weed and some of this other stuff, the native weeds that just kind of catch up towards the end of the year and start blocking off channels, and boats are getting full of that celery weed. So talking with the experts about it, including Mr. Faber from our Lake Alexander, which we have a beer once in a while and get chatting, we're seeing that everywhere. And it's just the cyclical thing that's going on, and it has a lot to do with the fact that we've had, zebra mussels for 8 years now, I think, at least. And those little creatures, when they get in there and they die off, they start changing the structure of the lake. They start fertilizing some of that stuff. So we get a lot of people that ask us, can we come in here and just combine all this stuff out of here? Well, we try to tell them that's not a normal thing to do. You hear it on Minnetonka and stuff like that in the cities, but anytime you take a weed out, you're changing the chemicals of the lake, and you're just gonna trade it out for algae. So that's what I try to tell them. You know, try to work around your docks and do whatever you can to try to make it a little bit easier for yourself, or you can actually have some of that treated. So I get kind of beat up, like, what are you guys gonna do about these weeds? And I'm like, they're native weeds. You know, they're not invasive. We're taking care of the invasive stuff. And we make sure that we do that the right way.
Are you?
So,
Good.
with that, anybody have questions
Sound better.
before Chris gets into?
Okay, you sound a
numbers?
little stuffy, not terrible though.
All right, sorry. My apologies.
All right, not a problem. Anything further for Tom?
Nope,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris?
have a great report, I'll tell you that.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Morning, Chris.
Yes, good morning.
I guess Tom did introduce me, but I'm Chris Zeman. I'm treasurer for the Fish Trap Lake Improvement District. At our June annual meeting, I reviewed the financial status of our lid. For this calendar year, I did explain about the $5,100 unexpected audit that we completed and paid for in this calendar year earlier. I also reminded the audience that we were taken aback a little by the unexpected amount of curly leaf that we had to treat. Again, 40-some acres, where the previous year we had already treated close to 50. So the budget did not reflect the overall cost that we ended up having to pay. Consequently, by our annual meeting, we were close to having reached our total budgeted expenses for the year, without invoices yet for the vegetation surveys that have to be conducted, or the anticipated CD3 boat cleaning station software maintenance that we agreed to pay back to the Lake Association, who really oversees the CD3 machine. I did inform the audience, however, that we had received a $5,000 grant from the county, and we had also been conditionally awarded from the state a $14,700 grant paid over the next 2 years. However, we will not be seeing any of that state money until next calendar year, and at best, it would probably only be about $7,000, which would be approximately half of that, to be able to carry it over for a 2 full-year time period. At the meeting, I estimated a balance of approximately an ending balance for the year of approximately $25,000. And as you can see from our year-to-date financial statement, we are even a bit under that figure to date. I explained to the audience that if we kept the current lid assessment at $40 per property owner, which has been held for the past 3 years, it would total approximately $13,000 worth of revenue. And not counting any of the conditional state grant, we'd be left with approximately $38,000 as beginning balance for 2023. Anticipating again approximately $24,000 worth of expense, we'd be left with a year-end balance next year of about $14,000. And stated that the proposed assessment, and went ahead and stated that we are proposing a $10 increase in the assessment from 40 to 50. And that had, even the 40 had been down from 60 the previous 2 or 3 years, going back like 5. After considerable discussion with the property owners in the audience at the annual meeting, They in fact expressed concern that perhaps only a $10 increase would not be sufficient. After all of our discussions, and I believe Commissioner Lemire was present during those discussions, Tom Anderson, our chair, did propose to increase the increase to $20, which would total then back to the $60 previous assessment levels that we had been at. The audience expressed agreement to that proposal, so Ron Knipen seconded the motion, and the lid passed the motion to propose $60 tax assessment for 2023 to the county commissioners. And that's where we are today.
My goodness, it sounds to me like you have an awful lot of people on the lake that truly take ownership of the lake. And that's pretty cool in the world that we're living in today. I think it's very cool. This is an action item.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget and levy amount for the Fish Trap Lakes.
Okay,
I'll second that.
got a motion, we've got a second, and further discussion, gentlemen.
I just want to say that, as you can see, they gave us a great report, and they handled a great meeting, and they have pretty good turnout, so everything went really smooth.
Thank you. I think that we have I agree, we have people that want to be involved with our lake. I know every time we go up there, I'm getting a little tired and want to get on to some other things, and I'll say, anybody else want this job? And nobody wants it. So, I enjoy it, and hope to do it for a couple more years, and hope that we can graduate one of our other board members up when I decide to go. But we, like you said, we've got a great group of people that have a love for the lake, and we're lucky for that.
Absolutely.
And one more, Mr. Chair?
Please.
How's the CD3 cleaning station working out? Do you have an opinion on that?
You know, do you have a little more from Gare? Maybe he's been.
I apologize. I have numbers, and they are actually being reported in the fall newsletter, which, from the Lake Association, which typically the commissioners do not receive a copy of.
Right.
But I have extras being printed, and I'll be happy to send that.
Sure.
Or the newsletter always appears on the fishtraplake.com website, following distribution to the paid association members. So you can always access or buy in or twice a year newsletters there. I know this only because I do that too.
You're ready to graduate too, huh?
Yes, my dear sweet husband volunteered me for that when we first moved up here.
And that's staying. Okay, we got that.
They picked the right two
But yes,
people.
actually, to answer your question, at least 200 and some times by various boat owners, if not more so even.
Okay.
I was actually very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Chuck Salter, who was a previous lid member and is part of the Lake Association Board, has overseen that project. That's really his baby. And he takes it very seriously and has been very good about reporting on the data.
Great.
So that's another person you can always turn to if any of you want specifics on that.
Excellent,
Thank you.
excellent. Anything further?
Just a note, it looks like you guys are proactive. I mean, that's better than reactive, so.
Right.
You can just see that in your proposal, so, you gotta, again, thank you, the board, and thank the lid members for doing it.
Absolutely. We'll let them know that.
Absolutely correct. All right, we've got a motion on the table. We've got a motion and a second. One more time, further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Thank you
Right.
both very, very kindly for coming.
All right, thank you, Commissioners.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, you
Yes.
too. Have a good one.
You bet. Our next item of business is going to be the sheriff's report. I saw the sheriff walk in, so he's here and he's coming down. Good morning, Sheriff Larson.
Morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Sheriff.
Morning, Sheriff.
Morning, everybody. So, yeah, I was just gonna kind of go over the newsletter for the month of October. And instead of the existing report that I use all the time, we not only did our normal report, but we kind of put it in a newsletter fashion. So instead of reading everything verbatim, I'll just kind of highlight some of the things going on. Our first thing is just, as everyone is aware, we did a jail employee recognition. We also recognized a couple dispatchers. That's when some suspected fentanyl and Klonopin pills came through and we found them on an inmate. So because of that and because of some past instances in our jail where illegal narcotics have made its way through, we've been talking to other agencies and kind of looking into a body scanner for the jail. And of course, we want to use this scanner before these inmates are kind of pushed to general population. So once they come in, they would get scanned. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We'll try and figure out how we're going to fund it and go from there, but we definitely got to start looking into this. I can tell you we've been lucky that no one has died in our jail. There's, as I mentioned before in the past, there's been some overdoses and things could have turned worse. So we have to start looking. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Sheriff, I wonder if we can talk just a little bit more about the body scanner, as long as you brought it up.
Sure.
Do you have, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but do you have any numbers as to other counties, how many, are there any counties that have got a body scanner? Or how many, or anything like that?
Sure.
Or cost, just for the
So we
conversation?
are basically in the infant stages right now
Yep.
of looking
with
into
me.
it. There are agencies, I do not have a total number. And the cost could be anywhere from right around that 200,000 or more. So
Okay.
that's all I have for you.
Okay, very good. So
Apologize.
that's all I was looking for, thank you.
Okay. To keep going on the upcoming chaplaincy fundraiser, he does a lot for Morrison County. He does a lot for us as employees of the sheriff's office, EMS. He does a lot for community members. So if anybody can make it, we'd appreciate the support for our chaplaincy program, November 27th. That's going to be at the VFW. And again, any size donation that you're comfortable with, you can eat all you want of Domino's Pizza. So please come if you can. I want to point out joint SWAT team training. We had joint training with the State Patrol. It was phenomenal. We did a nighttime operation. We had Morrison County SWAT team, which consists of Little Falls Police Department as well as the Morrison County Sheriff's Office deputies. Again, we had the State Patrol SWAT team as well as the State Patrol helicopter and Lifelink 3. And with our incident command post, we had our incident commanders there, and we brought in IT as well, and I see Amy's in the back, so we want to thank their department as well, and we learned so much from this training. So moving forward, they're kind of on our call team now, if you will. If the incident command post goes out to a scene, IT is going to be notified and come with us, just because we rely so much on technology, and we all know when technology doesn't work right, it just complicates things and makes it more chaotic. So with one of the pictures, you can see us kind of sitting around that incident command post. We're actually standing around a table, and you can see the big screen TV up. And that was, that was one of the features we had with our our Axon body cams. So they're out in the field, they're probably a good 300 yards or more away from us. And for us to try and figure out what they're talking about, what they're seeing, what one of the officers is actually observing, we're able to use the live feed off his camera and be able to listen. And in this case, it was a debriefing after the scenario. So it's just a feature that command staff, it's a supervisor feature that we can utilize. Another example might be if there was a pursuit going on. We don't have the Axon dash cams yet. We will be getting those, but we have the body cams, and we can tap into a live feed with the body cam. So as supervisors, we can actually see what the deputy is seeing, if that makes sense. So it was a training feature that we utilized. And with Amy, with IT, we were trying to figure out, okay, it'd be nice to know where our people are. You know, one of the scenarios was an officer down, an officer got shot, and they have to kind of load and go into the helicopter. And of course, we were flying a drone, but to get a live feed in our command post, it would have been nice to see where everyone was at. I can tell you, without our IT department, that would have never happened. But Axon has a 24/7 number that we can call, and we talked about it. It's like, hey, this is a training scenario. Let's train and figure it out. Let's give them a call. So Amy took care of that from IT, and we were able to notify them and get some assistance as to how our GPS features on our body cams can help us as incident commanders to know where our people are. So it was just a great training exercise. A lot was learned, and moving forward, we have a lot of tasks that we need to follow up on, but it was great. And I just wanted to let the board know that everybody worked together collaboratively, and it was good for all of us. So, any questions on any of that so far? Okay. We continue our public outreach, Coffee with a Cop. In this case, in October, we went to the senior center. Not only did we have seniors present, but they brought in a couple bus loads of high school kids as well. So that went well, and that's something we're going to continue. I'm going to get back to the drug trends, but now I'm going to jump over to RMS. That's our records management system. And I just want the board to know we've had LETG, it's Law Enforcement Technology Group. That's the name of our records management system that we currently have. And I think we've had it somewhere around, geez, Commissioner Jelinski, you probably know better than I do. I want to say we for sure had it in 2010, and I think the PD started before us.
And they did.
So where we're at is we were notified that it's reaching its end of life. And we kind of knew this early on, even when I took over as sheriff in 2015, there was some talk that at some point, RMS LETG will no longer exist. However, they came to an agreement that, hey, if you're an LETG member, we will continue to support you. But the support, they told us now, will no longer exist once they come with that sunset date. So all we know is at some point, whether it's a month from now, whether it's a year from now, they're going to notify us and say, you have 1 year and this program will be at its end of life. So with that information, we can expect within the next 12, 24 months, we're going to need a new program. So we got IT involved as well as collaborating with the Little Falls Police Department and our small town agencies, and we're going to work together and try and identify a vendor that's going to fit our needs in the future. So I just wanted to be upfront about that and let the board know where we're at, and we'll keep updating as we get more new information.
And Sheriff, perhaps I know the answer to the question, but I'll ask it. All law enforcement in Morrison County utilizes LETG or utilizes the software that you're talking about.
Correct, Commissioner. Yeah, we all use LETG. We're all on the same system, so we can share information, which is nice because if I want to figure out for report purposes, for an investigation, I can just utilize the same records, if you will. I'm just going over to the Motley, LFPD, Piers, Royalton reports. What also is nice is that since we keep the same records, if we have somebody that maybe we pulled over on a traffic stop, let's say it doesn't show up on their driving record, it's going to show up in our LETG RMS system that this person may have been warned prior for the same offense. So it's good, and that's the way we're pushing it. Whichever direction we go, whichever vendor we utilize, we want to make sure that we have the same capabilities.
Excellent, thank you.
And then just, we're big on social media, Morrison County Sheriff's Office. I think that's one of the pros in our office. We're constantly pushing out information. We're constantly educating the public, whether that's drugs, scams, driving conditions, driving tips, safety tips, public awareness. And that's something we'll continue to do. And I think it's worked good for us. We've solved a lot of crimes, actually. If we get partial information and there's some big ticket items like a vehicle that got stolen or somebody that's done damage and it's thousands of dollars worth, it's upsetting not only to the victims and those community members, but it's upsetting to us too. So we always say the public is the eyes and ears for us. We try and push out to the public the information that we have to help solve these crimes. So we'll continue to do that. You know, and the only other thing I'll highlight is the drug trends. I pretty much pushed out in this newsletter what's going on, what we're seeing. We're still seeing primarily methamphetamine. But before I came into this meeting today, I called the Little Falls Police Department just to see what they had, so you as a board can kind of figure out what we're seeing here too in Morrison County as far as overdoses. In Morrison County, in October, we had one overdose and the person survived. It was a female and she was 23 years old. In November, up to date, we've had 2 overdoses. It was a male, 51 years old, suspected heroin laced with fentanyl, and then another gentleman, age 65. So you can see the spectrum is 65, 51, 23. It's kind of all over the place. So 1 in October, 2 in November, they all survived. That's Morrison County Sheriff's Office. Now, if you go to the Little Falls Police Department, I called and got their statistics. They had 4 overdoses in the month of October. 3 of them survived, and I don't have ages, and I don't have male or female, I apologize. And 1 death, which they believe is related to the OD, but they're just waiting on the final autopsy. And then through November, through current, they had 3 overdoses, 2 survived, and 1 possible overdose related to death. Again, waiting on the autopsy. So that's why we're continuing our outreach. We continue to meet with our law enforcement partners across the board, being public health, county attorney's office, probation, our state representative. I know Matt is representing Morrison County Board. It's discussions that we continue with mental health, crime, drug activity, investigations, prosecutions, and our courts. So I think we all have a piece in the puzzle, and we need everybody's input if we're gonna solve this. But I also know that we push out a lot of information. We try to be as transparent as possible, and I know we do a lot more than other agencies around in the state. So our biggest thing is, let's not hide anything, let's disclose it, let's talk about it, and let's figure it out together. But we need all of our partners at the table if we're gonna do that. So with that, I'll shut up and I'll ask if there's any questions.
Sheriff, I totally agree with the statement that you made, and in my opinion, and I would anticipate in the opinion of the board, 1 overdose is 1 overdose too many. 1 death due to an overdose is 1 death too many. So I compliment you for all that you're doing. Gentlemen?
Mr. Chair. I just would like to commend you on working together with the other individuals to fight the mental health issues and stuff, because, you know, all the mental health hospitals that were closed by the state many years ago, that's put a burden upon law enforcement and the hospitals in the communities across Minnesota. So, like you said, don't hide nothing, bring everything out in front and see what you can do to make it better, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
And myself, Mr. Chair, is, you know, Sheriff, you said that you're out there in the public, you can't be out there too much, you know, because again, I think you're doing a great job, and again, this fentanyl just blows me away, is like, what, when you have somebody who's mentioned 65 and younger and all that sort, it's like, your education still tells that if it's laced with fentanyl, it could very well be, this could be a cause, but yet people are still, you know, using that type of drug. But for you in your department, keep that message out there, because if you save 1, that's 1 that you don't have to go call on, so.
I should add that some of these overdoses, the ones in the county, and I know some in the city, you know, we carry Narcan. And these people, some of them are still alive because of our deputies and officers that are going, you know, to an overdose, and the person is unconscious, and now the Narcan is bringing them back too. And the Narcan is just it's an opioid overdose reversal, if you will. And we're trained on it, and it's been an effective tool. So the problem is when you go to these overdoses, we're trying to get information from the people, right? We're like, hey, where did you get your product from? We're trying to do something with it versus just cover it up. But a lot of these people will tell us that they're not going to cooperate with us because they don't want their dealer to get in trouble when they need their next fix. And that's the tough part. And then Commissioner Lemire, you talked a little bit about how bad the mental health is. I can tell you in our jail, for the month of October, we had 11 inmates screened in for having some type of mental health issue. 11 of them. And that's just the screening process where, you know, there's like 8 questions, and out of the 8 questions, they have to answer so many yes, and then now they're screened in. They're not necessarily diagnosed yet, they're just screened in, and then they'll see the behavioral doctor at a later date. I can also tell you that just in the first 2 weeks of November, 42% of our inmate population had some type of medication for mental health. 42%. And I think we had, that number was based off 52 inmates at the time. So it's a lot, and that's what we're dealing with. And we'll continue to, like we said, educate, continue to get involved. But yeah, we definitely need some help. So,
Mr. Chair. Please, go ahead.
I think I read something that you wrote us about individuals, if there's a overdose and they witness it and they're scared to call you, that there's no repercussions if they do call?
correct.
That you
There's
wrote
a
something.
state law that was passed, Commissioner, that if they call for assistance, they being the one that is using the drug and they need medical assistance, and/or someone calls on their behalf, they will not be charged with a crime. And the reason for that law is because some people were hesitant, they were scared to call in for help, and then there was more deaths because of that. So our biggest thing is not only are we law enforcement, executive branch, and we're going to enforce the laws, but we want people to know too that if you come to us for help, we're going to get you the right resources and we're going to point you the right direction. And that's some of our education on our Facebook page as well, listing those different treatment centers and letting people know that there are options. So,
Sheriff, I would take one more moment of your time. If you could explain Narcan just a little bit to us, how you go about getting it. I believe I know the answer, but I'm just gonna, for everyone, on how Narcan comes to Morrison County.
so we get it through our region. And I can't think of her first name, maybe
Marion,
Marion Larson, thank you.
through our regional EMS Joint Powers Board.
Correct. Yep, and what she does is she provides the training for us, and there's no cost to us, which is nice. And it's a nasal spray, naloxone hydrochloride, I believe. And it can temporarily stop or reverse the overdose effects by doing this nasal spray. And like I said, it's been working, and we being Morrison County chose to carry it just because of some of the heroin laced with fentanyl and/or the pure fentanyl that we're dealing with on the street and what it can do to first responders as well. But obviously, we carry it for our own purpose, for our own people, but we also carry it for the public as well. So if that answers your question.
That took care of it. Very good. Anything further for the sheriff?
Yeah,
Mike.
Sheriff, I also appreciate the fact that you're using social media, because it seems like social media is out there giving some report. It's best if it comes from you, and I do think a lot of times there's probably people out there that can help you when they know what is going on. I know you have a lot of stolen stuff, looking for vehicles or something, and I'm sure you get a lot of calls from the public on those things, so.
We do, and you're right, Commissioner. I think it helps paint the picture, and some people will talk to us because of that and give us information, which is great. But one thing is that hurts us is sometimes they put information in a message, like a private message, and we don't monitor it 24/7.
Yeah.
So we always want to remind people that don't use that as a source of communication. Definitely give us a call and use our non-emergency phone number.
Absolutely.
Good. Thanks,
Anything
Sean.
further, Board?
Great information,
Yep,
Sheriff.
thanks, Sean. for all
Sheriff,
your-
thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
You guys do, thank you.
And next on our agenda is going to be Health and Human Services, Brad and Cindy.
Morning, Brad. Morning,
Morning,
Cindy.
Cindy.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning,
Brad.
Commissioners.
Morning, Cindy.
Good morning.
This morning, we're going to talk a little bit about healthcare, and could be some significant changes happening soon, so we're going to give you some background first.
Start with METS from inception. In the 7 years that it's been up and running, we've increased our caseload by 1,641 cases. And the population, you know, actual person count went from 2881 up to 6994. So that's a big increase, and during that time, we only hired one extra staff person for that unit, the healthcare unit.
Cindy, before you go any farther.
Yeah.
I'm as good with acronyms as the next person. So when we talk about METS from inception, I have no idea what we're talking about.
Okay, it's the Medical Eligibility Technology System, and it's where we approve MA.
Thank you.
The next slide is Maxis medical-only case totals. That's the disability population mostly, or adoption. Cost-effective health insurance reimbursement cases, this is the total for Morrison County. This is where the people are working and they have insurance available through their employer. We have to do a calculation to see if paying that premium for them is cheaper than us paying another entity for managed care. So it comes out of their paycheck generally, and then we reimburse them. We have had the occasional, like Cobra, that's, you know, super expensive, but the person is no longer employed, but that insurance, due to their health need, is still cost-effective, so we've paid premiums in excess of $1,000 a month. Medicare premium payments paid on clients' behalf. This is just as it says, the amounts that are for the number of people in the county where we pay their Medicare premium. Some of them do have it come out of their check if they're on a program called MAEPD, which stands for Employed Persons with Disabilities. So if they're working and have insurance again or don't have insurance available, but they have Medicare coming out of their Social Security check, we'll reimburse that as cost-effective insurance. Next screen is just a show of the counties in comparable size, the average monthly enrollment per county. Who Medicaid Minnesota Care serve? This, I put this in here because it says that, you know, 1/3 to 1/2 of pre-pandemic levels that were consistently lower on apps by that. But that doesn't reflect the amount of work still that goes on, because even though those people aren't submitting renewals or whatever, as we get new information from them or other sources, it still requires updates within the system to keep on top of it. So when the renewals actually happen where we can approve them, we have the most current information available. Otherwise, we would have to take all those cases and inquire with each of them as to any changes. This is just the proposed timeline for eligibility renewals to actually start. Again, it's proposed. We haven't had notification yet that this is what's going to happen.
So just a comment about that. So the next public health emergency is slated to end January 10th of 2023. The federal government has indicated to the states that they will give us a 60-day notice when they are going to cancel or not renew the public health emergency. So we're beyond the 60 days right now. So I'm guessing then that they would extend the public health emergency for another 90 days. And really the impact is, especially on healthcare, that people do not have to do renewals. We just keep adding people on, and and when the public health emergency ends, there will be a lot of work by eligibility staff to find, get renewals, make determinations about who is still eligible for medical assistance, because probably a number of the individuals who are currently on medical assistance would not qualify if they were doing annual renewals.
Correct.
So there will be work, and the department is trying to wind it down so we're not having to do renewals for everybody in 1 month. So they're gonna do it month by month, and that's the schedule that Cindy put in front of you.
And the month-by-month explanation there is that whenever their renewal was due, they'll be due for that in the upcoming year then. Does that make sense?
And the other thing the department is doing is providing materials that we can share via social media or in the paper about what that might mean. Because again, nobody's had to renew for almost three years now, their health care. And so trying to educate them and especially making sure the address we have is accurate.
So if I may, Mr. Chair.
Please.
To follow up with this renewal, so you're telling me that for the past 3 years, I don't have to, you're just automatically review, even though I may not qualify?
Correct.
So is there money that I may have to pay back or?
No.
So it's just
No.
continuous there, so.
We could only close for 3 reasons: move out of state, death, or client requests closure. So we absolutely have people that are over income by quite a lot and still are getting medical assistance, and we cannot close them down.
And I'm assuming when you said death, if you're automatically renewing, maybe somebody that's already passed on, I don't know, so.
No, that, we get notified of a death. First of all, we check like local obituaries to make sure we're getting any people out of, say, nursing homes or whatever, that if it's somehow slipped through that notification process. And then also the state does a monitor on the date of death. I don't know exactly how that works, but they notify us then if we have someone open that has passed. And so it's definitely within the month of their death, but then we go back and close it effective the day of death.
And just to clarify, there's no financial gain. It's all about having access to health care, health insurance when it comes to not closing anything, so.
But again, that if their access to health insurance, which is great, someone's paying for it, someone that does not really qualify.
Absolutely. The next just shows some cost savings by different partnerships that we've had to improve healthcare. And you can see that emergency room visits are down 7% and hospital stays 14%. And that's actually quite huge. It saves a lot of medical dollars by keeping them out of the emergency room. A big part of that is attributed to urgent care clinics being available. And the next couple of slides are just showing you the income limits for different family sizes, from singles to large families, and for all medical programs that we offer. So the different Medicare savings programs, the employed persons with disabilities, all of those. Any questions?
Questions for Cindy or for Brad? Good report, good information again. Go ahead,
The
Mike.
peacetime emergency, that's a federal thing
Correct.
that you got away from? Okay, that's
Yeah.
all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything further?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a
Very,
good
very
day.
kindly
Great day,
appreciate
you
it.
guys.
And let's see, Gloria's not here, but I do know Anthony's here for the extension report.
This is a real test now, Anthony.
Yeah,
Good morning, Anthony. You've been here before, but this is your first time,
Yes, sirs.
and the floor is yours.
So, yeah, unfortunately, there've been a couple changes this year in our staffing, and so the person that originally signed up to present today actually isn't with us anymore, so that was the crops educator, Nathan Drewitz. And so as we're trying to figure out planning and programming and everything, it just kind of become a little confused. So I appreciate you guys being flexible and allowing me to present on his behalf. And
Not a problem.
so as we continue to evolve our new Quad County relationship, one of the first things we've started to do is kind of update our branding information to reflect the Quad County, Stearns, Benton, Morrison, and Sherbrooke County. But this is on all of our documents, including our social media. And the next thing that I'll like to talk about is some of our programs that we've participated in and/or that we've presented. So recently, we had the land rent program that we actually did for 3 counties, so that's Stearns, Morrison, and Sherburne County. I'd like to point out that we had 9 people show up to our Morrison County land rent workshop, more than Stearns and Sherburne. So we're working to kind of sort of improve our presence here. We also did a rural safety day. This was held in Stearns at a high school where we talked about grain bin entrapment, and Dana, our livestock educator, donned the correct harness. And we had some FFA students come in and kind of, these young kids, oh, I can totally get out of if I get trapped. So it's a 50-gallon gray bin filled up with some corn. And the bottom of it, we have a plywood about the size of this, and a rope attached to it. So the goal is for you to basically lift this through the grain bin. And science has shown that it equates to a certain number of pounds to actually push yourself or pull yourself out of the grain bin entrapment. So we had a couple of FFA students come in, and some other young guys come in, like, oh, I could totally do this. And, just realizing that the amount of force that you require to pull your ankles out is about 160 pounds of force. Yeah. And so when you're lifting this, you're getting about 50, 60, doesn't matter how strong you are, how big you are. So that was a pretty interesting kind of workshop and event to just kind of see how we enlighten students and other folks as to what safety is on the farm. And it's something that you may take lightly, just putting on a harness. So that was pretty cool. Dana also had a kind of a sort of a workshop on building resistance through connections. So these were targeted to some of our women in agriculture and other individuals, just talking about mental health and how to connect that and dealing with the stress on day-to-day farm work, our farm life. So going to our horticulture side, we've been doing a lot of technical assistance. One of the things that's been coming up a lot has been oak decline. It's basically wiping a lot of our oak trees out. So Quincy has been doing a lot of kind of update and spreading some information and resources to clients that are calling in. Another other thing she's been dealing with has also been like a lot of calls on how to get my garden or yard prepared for winter. And she's also doing interviews for our Master Gardener program. And so she's had a couple from the 3 counties that she was working in. So it's been going well. So as far as some upcoming events, one in particular I'd like to highlight, and that's Annie's project. It's a project that targets women in agriculture, and it covers 5 core risk or core subject matter: legal risk, marketing, finance, production, and HR. So we're trying to promote this. Again, historically, we've had a little less than half of the total capacity of this program attended, so 5 to 9 people, and our max is 20. So we're starting early, and we're trying to promote it and get it out there. Other than that, I've been meeting with a lot of our stakeholders and our partners, USDA, Soil and Water, Compeer, and some other organizations, including farmers as well. So that's pretty much all I have to report. If you guys have anything specific to the report there, I can answer it as best as I can.
Very good, Anthony. Good report. Thank you very much. Board, anything for Anthony today?
Did a good job, Anthony.
Glad
Thank
you're
you.
putting Morrison County on the map.
I'm trying.
You're doing a good job. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
and
you.
I also would like to say that it's been a privilege being here, and I've already started to work with some of the departments here. The vet department introduced me to Sprout, and last week, although we had a little storm on, I think it was Friday or Thursday, I actually attended the event in Benton County, and I met with Region 5 and Sprout. So it's a privilege being in this space to be able to work with other agencies to better serve Morrison County.
Outstanding.
Glad to have
Thank
you,
you,
Anthony.
Anthony.
Glad to have you, yes.
Thank you. All right, our next item of business is going to be IT, information technology. Miss Amy? Good morning.
Morning, Amy.
Good morning. All right, so thanks for inviting me to the board meeting today. This morning I'm here to request to have upon approval of the 2023 Morrison County budget, that IT can expand the help desk capabilities. The proposed quote that I have is for a 3-year contract, and the budgeted amount, or IT has the amount in our proposal for 2023 that would cover this amount in 2023. And I also have in my proposed 5-year outlay plan, the additional amounts for 24 and 25 that were included and submitted with my budget proposal back in September. So with that, I'm asking for your approval to execute on this as soon as the 2023 budget is approved.
Gentlemen, you heard the request.
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Amy,
Go ahead.
Amy, I think you had budgeted like $10,000 in your budget, if I'm not mistaken, for next year, and you came in and it was $11,113, and you knew you could get the rest of that out of your budget. Or
Budgeted 20.
did you budget 20?
I budgeted 10,500 for the onboarding and then an additional 9,500 for the ongoing costs. So it was a total of 20,000 for 2023. And then in 2024, I had budgeted 10,400. So just a little shy of what's on the contract. And then in 2025, I had increased each year by about 10%. So it would cover each year.
Thank you for doing that.
Commissioner, go ahead.
Yeah, anyway, we had a discussion maybe last week, 2 weeks, I know time goes by so fast. And again, I will vote for this here, but, I say, this technology is just getting unbelievable, what we are required to have through tomorrow and next year. It's, I don't know when it'll ever end, but I say, it's just something new that we need as a county to, to move forward. And it's just unfortunate, but say, I always thought things would get easier with technology, and it's getting a little bit more complicated, as for me anyway, because I know enough to be dangerous. So thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Commissioner Winchell, because I was also going to add, we did have a in-depth discussion a week ago or so at a planning meeting in regards to this. And I also am going to support it because of that discussion and because of the need that I truly believe is there. Further discussion? Gentlemen, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Winchell.
Aye.
Lemire.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
And myself, Jelinski, is an aye vote. That motion shall pass. And Ms. Amy, thank you very much for your time, as always.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Amy.
Yep.
All right, moving right along, and I don't know if we kind of should veer a little bit off of the actual agenda, because, or not. I'll look to our administrator. Should we talk about calendars, or should we talk about elections, or where should we go?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we'll just have a few things to close out in accordance with the agenda. We can cover committee reports, and then I can give you my update on the position, as well as some correspondence, and then a follow-up on another matter here, and then I'll ask the board to go into a closed session. So if it's okay, we could do committee reports.
Excellent. We'll do committee reports. I'll look to Tabitha for dates.
November 27th through December 10th.
27th through the 10th. And I'll get things started right along. On the 27th, as we heard from the sheriff, starting at 11 o'clock in the morning at the Little Falls VFW, is the Chaplaincy Pizza Party. On the 29th of November at 8:30 in the morning, we have a planning meeting scheduled. And at 6 o'clock that evening, I believe there's a Planning Commission Board of Adjustments meeting.
That was canceled.
That one's canceled?
Yeah,
Okay.
Next two are canceled.
Next two are canceled, thank you. December 1st at 10 o'clock in the morning, I've got a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Legislative Committee meeting, and that is virtual. On the 2nd at 8:30 in the morning, we have a Public Works Planning meeting at Public Works. On the 5th, 6th, and 7th, it's the AMC Annual Convention in Bloomington. On the 7th at 3:30 in the afternoon, I have State Emergency Communications Board Executive Committee meeting that is virtual. On the 8th at 9 o'clock in the morning, we have a county board meeting. At 6 p.m. that evening, we have Truth in Taxation here in the boardroom. And that's a public hearing, fee schedules, and truth in taxation. On Friday, the 9th, 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board RAC meeting. That evening, starting at 4:45, is a holiday gathering at the Piers Ballroom. Oh, RAC meeting is virtual, sorry. Apologize for that.
Yeah.
And I think that's as far as we go. So I would look to Commissioner Wincher for anything further.
Thank you. So we're gonna start on the 27th. On the 29th at noon, I'll be in negotiations. We settled with Great River Regional Library, and we just have to sign the contracts for 2 unions and I'll be at the library in St. Cloud at noon on the 29th. He's got me there. And then again, I will not be attending the AMC annual conference. I will also have a meeting at the City of Royalton on the 6th at 7 p.m. And just for the people out there in TV land, and the truth in taxation is not for your personal property taxes. This is for how we set our levy, how much we spend. So you're more than welcome to be invited to that. But I say, just want to put that out there. It's not for your personal property taxes. Otherwise, I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lemire.
On the 30th, Public Health Advisory Meeting at 5 o'clock. That's usually held last time it was held in here. The first, HRA, 9 o'clock at HRA. And everybody got the rest.
Okay. Commissioner Wilson.
On the 30th, I got Rum River Watershed at 6 o'clock in Malacca. And on the 7th, I got RDFA at 4 o'clock at Pine Country Bank.
And that's it? All right, that should take care of our committee reports, upcoming schedule. I will now look to our administrator to talk about a recount.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this, everything that you're hearing now here this morning transpired since our planning session last week. And the topic is a recount from our general election, which occurred November 8th. On November 14th, the canvass board was complete. On November 15th, we had an initial inquiry of the losing candidates from Commissioner Districts 3 and 5, inquiring on the process to conduct a recount. I met with our county attorney, our election official, and our interim appointed auditor treasurer. In accordance with statute 204, a recount can be requested as long as it's done no later than 5 p.m., 7 days following the canvassing board. On November 18th, a formal request was submitted from the commissioner, or to the candidate running for Commissioner District 5 to conduct a recount. Prior to that, when I met with the county attorney, auditor treasurer, and the election official, we needed to come up with a couple of fees or rates. And what I'm bringing to the board today would be retroactive, and I will explain how we came to those amounts. And I'll get back to that. On yesterday, 11/21, a recount did occur for Commissioner District 5, as well as we received formal notice and a cashier's check to conduct a recount for Commissioner District 3. That recount is scheduled for tomorrow, the 23rd of November. So the topic, then of course I will field any other questions to the board today, would be to set the external election judge hourly rate at $20 an hour. Yesterday, we brought in 3 members outside of the county staff to assist in that process. We also had our election official, our appointed auditor treasurer, the county attorney, myself, as well as other ancillary staff to assist in the setup, tear down, and training involved in that process. All county staff would remain on their current hourly rate. This would be to pay the election judges that we brought in from outside the staff. In talking with townships, we don't typically pay election judges during a primary election. We field it with staff, but because of the nature of this request, we brought in outside judges. The townships, it's very common for a $15 an hour election judge rate with a $20 an hour head judge rate. Taking that into consideration with the short notice of this request, I proposed that we offer $20 an hour, knowing that it had not gone in front of the board. So that's the first item I'm bringing forward on resolution today. And the second was to set the fee for a recount. And to the knowledge of the staff when we met, the county had not done that prior. So as we met, we sketched out what we believe the costs would be to fund that for staffing and ancillary and tertiary costs, as well as looked at Crow Wing County, our neighbor to the north, and their fee that they have set for a recount is $3,500, just to see if we were in the ballpark. We believe that after sitting down that an appropriate fee to conduct a recount would be $3,000. And then to highlight that in accordance with the recount guide published by the state, the way that works is the person requesting the recount, the candidate requesting the recount, would be obligated to pay a fee if the difference is greater than 0.5%, as our commissioner districts are outlined, and they are liable for that fee. In the case of Commissioner Districts 3 and 5, that is the case. There's two ways that the money would be refunded to the requesting applicant. The first is if, as a result of the recount, it reverses the decision of the vote, of the election, or if there is greater than 0.5% in errors identified during the recount. So, gentlemen, today I bring to you a request to approve an hourly rate of $20 an hour for election judges and a recount fee of $3,000 that we can add to the county fee schedule for next year.
Gentlemen, this is an action item. We've heard what it is. I would look for a motion.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion.
If I may, has nothing to do with your motions. Didn't the state of Minnesota have a random count for the governor or something like that here at Morrison County, or am I thinking wrong?
So, Commissioner, I think what you're referring to is during the canvass board, at the conclusion of it, we had to draw 2 precincts out of a hat. And then we randomly hand counted those 2 races, which was a state representative and governor's race, and that occurred yesterday as well.
Thank you.
Anything further from the board?
Go ahead, Mike.
Just so I'm clear, a candidate for commissioner from District 5 and District 3 are required to recount. And did you say District 3 put in yesterday?
They requested a recount,
Yeah.
and that is correct. Yesterday, the candidate running for Commissioner District 3 submitted a request.
And then did you say District 5 has already been hand counted, recounted?
Yesterday, that's correct.
Can we discuss that outcome or not?
Certainly.
Yeah, what did they find on that one?
So yesterday, at about 12 o'clock, our election judges came in that we requested assistance from the city. They received training, and at 1 o'clock is when the recount process began. Prior to that, the commissioner from District 5 received notice that there was going to be a recount. That was the notice required that we do. So I should catch up there. Then, as the actual recount, it initiated at approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon and concluded at approximately 3:30 in the afternoon with 4 judges hand counting the ballots. The result was a 1-for-1 match of hand count from what the information we had from our tabulator from the election. There were no discrepancies as a result, 0 discrepancies as a result of the hand count.
Thank you for that.
Commissioner Wilson?
That was the question I was going to ask. It looks like these recounts are showing that our voting machines are 100% accurate at the time.
I appreciate
we have
that.
checked, so I'm glad to hear that. So,
The question that I would have is that, and I'm very clear on setting a fee of $3,000 to do a recount, crystal clear. My question is, if this goes over $3,000, every taxpayer in Morrison County is now liable for anything over $3,000, if you will. And I'm just not sure that I am comfortable with that. But we're real comfortable that we're fine, that we're not going to go over budget, if you will, with the 3,000. That is kind of my statement and question all in one.
Mr. Chair, that's what we came up with in staffing. We believe that it is fair and that we can remain within that fee to conduct the recount. If we are not, this will certainly be taken in consideration to set a different fee if this occurs again. But we needed this amount to be proposed to the candidate so they could file for the recount.
Yep, and I understand. Thank you very much. Further discussion?
Just to be
Go ahead.
clear, they have to pay that fee prior to the count, correct?
They had to, that's correct, Mr. Chair. The requesting candidate needed to propose or request the recount in writing formally and provide a cashier's check or other form of secure monies at the time of the request.
Thank you.
thank you.
Further discussion from the board? Gentlemen, we have a motion, we have a second. This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Wincher?
Abstain.
Wilson?
Aye.
And Commissioner Jelinski, myself, is an aye vote. That motion passes on a 3-to-1 vote with the one abstaining.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move right along. And Auditor Treasurer Office discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so as a follow-up from last week, the first thing I wanted to do is clarify a point that I made, and then it was clarity was provided by our appointed auditor treasurer as well as our election official. I made a statement that if the board wanted to continue to keep the auditor treasurer position elected, that we would have to conduct a special election in the month of February. That statement's inaccurate. That does not apply for the auditor treasurer position. So as described last week by our staff members, I just want to make sure that that's on the record and could be clearly heard that that's inaccurate. So that being said, in addition, some other questions that the board had last week. One of them was could the recorder hold the position? The answer is the recorder could hold the position if it is temporary in nature, and that's in accordance with statute 375A 11, that the recorder could also hold that position, temporary in nature. Another big topic last week was duration, and I should say I'm not going to ask any type of decision from the board today. If there's other information that's required as the board continues to consider this matter, I'll continue to seek it out. Duration. In accordance with statute 375.08, the person appointed shall give bond and take the oath required by law and serve the remainder of the term and until the successor qualifies. So what that means is the board currently has appointed, we have an appointed interim auditor treasurer, Ms. Debbie Simonietz, and she is in position until a successor qualifies. So there's no need for action at this time. If presumably Chelsea, Ms. Robinson submits her formal resignation, does not take office in January, we are okay. The board is covered, the county is covered with an interim auditor treasurer until a successor qualifies. That being said, if the board appoints, reappoints, reaffirms, or appoints a different person after January 3rd, then that person would remain in that position until the term is filled. So I just to let the board know at this point in time, we have the person identified and they are there. To reiterate from last week, the only timeline we have is when does the board want to provide clarity of the future of that office and how that office looks and what that position, what type of position that is. Again, we're not, I thought we were on a tighter timeline. I was misinformed on February, and so now that kind of opens that up. So those were the 3 points I wanted to provide for the board as a follow-up from last week. Pending any questions?
Before I ask the rest of the board, I would ask the question, have we actually received a physical letter yet from Ms. Robinson?
We have not.
Okay. Comments from the board? Mike?
Deb is willing to stay in that position till we find somebody else, or, I guess that's my question, is she willing to stay there? For how long, or what?
When I met with Ms. Simonians in August and initially had this discussion, when I asked her if she'd be willing to be the interim, her question very quickly was, for how long? And I... Right, and so I said I would ask her to be prepared to cover it for 5 to 6 months. And then that takes us to February or March, with ideally, the board would provide some guidance on kind of how we're looking, and maybe there's no change, and I got to go back and ask her if she continues to be willing to. But that was the last conversation we had, and we're holding there.
Thank you.
I think that would be a realistic timeline for us to weigh all the options, 5 to 6 months. We want to make sure we're doing the right decision, but we also need to understand that being that Chelsea left, they're down one person in that department. And I think the sooner the better for Joyce and for Ms. Sabanians. That's my 2 cents.
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, and I made that proposal to Ms. Simonians with a start date of 16 September, when Ms. Robinson resigned her position. So if it's 5 to 6 months from now, then it would be closer to 7 from when she was appointed.
What, the 5 to 6 months, you said February?
From September 16th, when
I think that's doable, right?
And just keep in mind, Mr. Chair, is that then this would give us time, because we would have to have a public hearing to, to see
If we
what.
choose
you know,
to go
to
that
choose
route, yeah.
Which route would be, so I think that gives us plenty of time.
It could also be construed as to, from the date that we get the letter from our current auditor, saying that she's no longer interested in the position. I mean, the technical part of it is, she's there.
Yeah.
I mean, just for conversation is all I'm saying. But yeah, I agree.
I think the respect on that is that Deb said that she would take
Yep,
it for
absolutely.
September. I mean, she may be willing to take it for another 6 months.
Yep.
I don't know, but that's out of respect for her. We
Well,
asked for
and
6 months.
with respect to her also, is we can always have that conversation.
Yep.
And our current auditor treasurer is not getting paid, that's, as Chelsea's not getting.
No, the board approved a small increase to the wages of our registrar, our election official, and our interim auditor treasurer.
But Chelsea is not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm talking Chelsea.
Correct. No, she is not.
Right?
Okay.
What do you,
I need nothing, just if there's any other questions or information, I know that the board is considering this action, and it is in the back in front of the board's minds, and if there was more information needed, I'll continue to seek it.
I think for myself personally, Mr. Administrator, is that I'm interested in getting the I'm not interested letter from the elected official.
yeah.
I mean, that's really what we have to have in our hands.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only way. we can move
Mr.
forward
Chair, I
with the other
understand,
option.
and I'll reach back out, and I know that's a big decision as well for her, and then in consultation with our county attorney, ultimately, that too could be reversed on January 2nd. You could rescind that letter, and it's still her office to decline. So
Absolutely.
ultimately, we won't know until January 3rd, and then we'll be fairly certain on her position.
And I think that's only fair to everybody, to be really.
That's the only way we really can move forward with.
But we
that
can't,
other
exactly,
option.
absolutely.
Lines.
That's
We
right.
can really talk about whatever we want to, but we can't move forward with
Good
it.
point, Mr. Chair.
Anything further from the board regarding that discussion? All right. Is our next item, Mr. Administrator, to go into closed session?
Almost, Mr. Chair. I have one piece of correspondence that I would like to put on the record, and if it's okay.
Please,
I received
please.
from the City of Little Falls on November 16th, project update on 2022 4th Street improvements. And the first paragraph says, "The City of Little Falls and Morrison County would like to thank you for your patience through the construction process. As of today, the project area is open to the public and traffic is allowed to utilize the roadway." So we received that as a tenant or a neighbor to 4th Street, but I just wanted to let the board know that the City of Little Falls sent that notice out, and 4th Street is open for traffic, knowing that it's the first lift and there's more improvements to be made next year.
Thank you. Comments of the board on 4th Street? All
Okay.
right, we don't have any. That's fine.
So gentlemen, I'm going to ask the board to move into a closed session to discuss two items. The first is on to further our discussion on labor union negotiations, and the second is concerning pending litigation, which both items we're allowed to go into closed session to discuss.
Could look for a motion.
I will make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Second, Randy.
Got a motion and a second to go into closed session. Discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? Aye. That motion passes. It is 10:21 a.m. We'll go into closed session, and we'll take about a 7-minute break.
Perfect.